Rainha de Congo para de Rosa esperava dizer Ai de Torre para onde vai Rosa esperava dizer
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Crystal Eddins. I'm an assistant professor of Africana Studies here at UNC Charlotte. And
hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Oscar de la Torre, and I'm associate professor of Africana Studies at UNC Charlotte, too.
Thank you for joining us. We are piloting our department podcast, where we will be discussing issues related to people of African descent, especially surrounding issues of social justice, and just talking about contemporary current events, political events, as well as tying some of those things into some of our faculty research and other things that we do here on campus.
That is right, and like Dr. Eddins was saying, we are part of an interdisciplinary department that practices research, and community service in a wide range of fields. Some of us work conducting research about Africa, others about the United States, others about Latin America and the Caribbean. And we all share this concern with the experiences of African descendants all over the African diaspora. Our department has a long history. It was created more than 40 years ago during the struggle for civil rights. And ever since, we have maintained a very high research and community service profile as we organize a number of events, right, Crystal?
Right, yeah, absolutely. So some of those events include the Bertha Maxwell Roddy Lecture that we hold every year in commemoration of our department's founding director, Bertha Maxwell Roddy, who was a central figure not just here on campus, but just in the city of Charlotte in terms of really bringing more awareness about Black history and Black culture to the city. We also organize our spring symposium where we bring in scholars from all over the state as well as from surrounding regions to share their research and talk a little bit more about the work that they're doing in the field of Black studies.
Our faculty has obtained a number of awards and accolades from the highest research institutions and research centers in the United States. And we have recently also created an honors program that includes the possibility of finishing your degree with an honors thesis and getting a step ahead into your research, whether you are thinking of going into academia or into the private sector.
Yeah, absolutely. So for you students out there who are looking for more opportunities to be able to learn more about research, to be an independent scholar on your own and to learn how to translate those skills into something that can be marketable on the job market, doing an honors thesis is an excellent opportunity to be able to demonstrate those skills and to be able to explore your interests a little bit more in depth. And it also provides opportunities for gaining scholarships, for being maybe put into certain pipelines for graduate school. So doing an honors thesis is definitely a great option for some of you students out there who are interested in continuing your education and interested in continuing research in a variety of ways.
Hello, everybody. We are continuing today to discuss some of the things that we do at the department by talking with Dr. Crystal Eddins, who is one of our most recent hires at the department, right? She came here, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
Fall 2017.
All right, so just a couple of years ago. All right. And Dr. Eddins, your research has to do with Haiti and with maroonage in Haiti, right? Tell us more about it, please.
Sure. So I study the Haitian Revolution, which was the most successful slave rebellion in modern history in terms of the aims that it set out to accomplish. This was a group of enslaved people who organized themselves into a competent army and defeated the troops of the British, the Spanish, and the French. And this revolt resulted in the abolition of slavery, the first abolition of slavery in the Atlantic world, and the independence of Haiti as a nation state. And so part of what I'm interested in is trying to understand how this came about, right? How did this group of people who had been forcefully brought from various regions of the African continent come together despite some of their differences to organize themselves and fight for their freedom. Right? So part of what I'm interested in are concepts related to collective consciousness, collective identity, and culture, and then how those conceptions of self, conceptions of community, and people's conceptions of their social conditions impacts their forms of resistance, their tactics of struggle, and the ways that they go about organizing for social change. And I do that primarily by looking at marronage, which is this long history and tradition of resistance to slavery in the form of rebelling and running away.
Mm-hmm. And about marronage, this creation of autonomous communities beyond the reach of the masters during the era of slavery, if I'm not mistaken, the act of forming a Maroon community and the act of marronage has traditionally been regarded by a number of black intellectuals as one of the most important precedents of protests against racial oppression and capitalist oppression, right?
Absolutely. So even dating back to the late 15th century when Christopher Columbus first arrived to the Caribbean, to colonial Haiti in particular, and encountered the indigenous and and the Spanish were responsible for bringing in some of those first Africans to Haiti. Their initial responses were to escape those Spanish sugar plantations. So the Africans and the Taino oftentimes collaborated with one another in their revolts and in forming communities in the mountains together. And so when we look at the traditions of resistance and rebellion in the Atlantic world, in many societies, including Cuba, Jamaica, Suriname, Colombia, Mexico, Brazil, we see some of these same tactics and strategies of resistance to essentially not just reject the conditions of enslavement, but really to reject the conditions of being a commodified thing, right? What does it mean to take back one's humanity and to deny the capitalist structures that attempt to commodify human beings and turn them into chattel, right? And so when we think about racial capitalism and the ways that marronage is a counter to that, that's a significant part of how many scholars, including myself, but others, think about resistance more broadly in the African diaspora, right? Either theoretically or even metaphorically.
And if I'm not mistaken, you carried out this research or had time to write about the research you conducted recently thanks to a fellowship you obtained from an important center of studies on slavery, right? Could you please tell us more about that?
Yeah. So last academic year, I was the Ruth J. Simmons postdoctoral fellow at the Center for the Study of Slavery and Justice at Brown University, and this is a unit on their campus that has been devoted to the study of slavery in the Americas, coming off of the heels of a report that found that enslaved labor was a major contributing factor to Brown University, and contemporarily we are continuing to see some of these same connections between slavery and the academy in terms of institutions of higher learning actually having owned slaves or individuals who are part of those institutions.
Bristol University just hired someone to do research on that,
Okay.
or on the university's implication in the slave trade.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's some very close connections again in terms of looking at slavery, capitalism, and even higher education. And so to bring it back to the fellowship, I was able to spend time in this unit to essentially conceptualize and begin drafting chapters of my book that will look at African-inspired sacred rituals, um, collective consciousness among the enslaved population, and different forms of resistance, primarily Marronage, in the years leading up to the Haitian Revolution.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you for giving us a brief intro to your research. And what is the projection? When are you planning on publishing this research as a book?
That's a great question. I don't know if academics ever really have. Do we ever really know these things? Currently I have chapters that are under review with a press. And my hope is that within the next couple of months, I'll be getting some feedback from the external reviewers. And prayerfully, they will be saying that the book is worth publishing and worth giving me a contract.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Eddins, for sharing your research with us. And of course, we do look forward to reading the book and having it in our hands. This is all for today. Thank you very much, everybody, for watching our podcast. And in the next weeks and months, we will discuss many other topics, right? You please, Dr. Eddins, you tell us about them.
Sure. So we'll be talking about a range of topics related to the history of our department, for example, in terms of the activism and advocacy on the part of students and faculty to make UNC Charlotte more inclusive of Black students and Black faculty, and the founding of Africana Studies, right? We'll probably also be talking about things related to other social justice issues in the diaspora. There are a range of protests that have been happening within the past few months that are definitely related to, I think, kind of global political and economic shifts. And so places like Haiti, places like Brazil, which is the topic or the geographic region that you study, these are things that are really pressing in today's world. And so hopefully we'll be able to explore some of those topics with insights from the experts.
Absolutely. So, well, we will see you all very soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Congo,